Hello students, today in this video we will discuss our Ncert questions from the chapter Chemical Reactions and Equations. So let's see what is the first question. So why should a magnesium ribbon be cleaned before burning in air? So this is the first question. Now when we keep the magnesium for a long period of time, we know in our surrounding oxygen is present. So this oxygen reacts with the magnesium and forms a layer of magnesium oxide. So generally what happens, in our atmosphere oxygen is present. This oxygen reacts with the magnesium and they form magnesium oxide. And this layer of magnesium oxide, it restricts the burning of magnesium ribbon. So to prevent this restriction, we have to clean this magnesium ribbon before burning. So when magnesium is kept for a long period of time, it gets covered with a layer of magnesium oxide, and this layer hinders or restricts the burning of magnesium. Hence it has to be cleaned before burning. So why the magnesium ribbon has to be cleaned before burning? So when magnesium is kept outside for a long period of time, it gets covered with a layer of magnesium oxide, and this layer restricts the burning of magnesium. Hence it has to be cleaned before burning. Okay, let's see the question number 2. So what is asked in the question number 2? Write the balanced equation for the following chemical reactions. So these are the chemical reactions is given. So we have to balance this chemical reaction. Now this kind of chemical reactions, these are called word equation, or it is also called the skeletal equations. So first we have to convert this skeletal equation into chemical equations. Chemical equation means what? The symbolic representation of the reactants and the products. It is called chemical equation. So first we have to convert into chemical equation, then we have to balance the chemical equation. So first equation is what? Hydrogen reacts with chlorine. The symbol of hydrogen is H2. Reacts with chlorine, Cl2. They form hydrogen chloride. Now here you see this reaction is in the unbalanced state. Why? Because the number of atoms in the left hand side and the number of atoms in the right hand side are not equal. Here hydrogen 2, here hydrogen 1. Here chlorine 2, here chlorine 1. Now to balance the chemical equation, already I have uploaded the trick to balance the chemical equations. So if you have not watched that video, you please go through this video, then you will get the clear cut idea how to balance the chemical equations. So now what was the trick I told? First, always whenever we are balancing the chemical equation, first try to balance the metals, then try to balance the non-metals, then oxygen, and at last try to balance the hydrogen. This is the trick. Now here you see, here metals are not given, metals are not there, hydrogen also non-metal, chlorine also non-metal. Then try to balance the non-metal other than oxygen and hydrogen. So here chlorine is how many? Chlorine is the non-metal. So chlorine how many? 2. Here chlorine how many? 1. So put 2 here. Now check. Metals are not there. Chlorine 2, chlorine 2. Hydrogen 2, hydrogen 2. Now this reaction became balanced. Now, second question. Barium chloride. Barium chloride formula is BaCl2. Barium reacts with aluminum sulfate. Aluminum sulfate formula is Al2SO4 3. So barium chloride reacts with aluminum sulfate, form barium sulfate. Barium sulfate formula is BaSO4 plus aluminum chloride. Aluminum chloride formula is AlCl3. Now this trick remember. First try to balance the metal. So here in this reaction, what are the metals? Aluminum is the metal, barium is the metal. So always first try to balance the metals. So here left hand side barium is 1, right hand side barium also 1. That means barium is balanced. Now aluminum. This side aluminum also metal. So aluminum 2, this side aluminum is how many? 1. So put 2 here. Now again, whenever we are putting the number to balance the chemical equation, after putting the number always starts from the beginning. Metals. Again check. Barium 1, barium 1. Aluminum 2, aluminum 2. Now try to balance the non-metal. That too other than oxygen and hydrogen. Always oxygen at the second last, hydrogen at last. Non-metals. So find what are the non-metals. Here chlorine is the non-metal and sulfur is the non-metal. So here chlorine is how many? 3 to the 6. 6 chlorine are present. This side how many? Chlorine 2. So here you put 3. Now you see 3 to the 6. 3 to the 6. So chlorine 6. Now again start from the beginning. First try to balance the metal. Aluminum 2, aluminum 2 balanced. Now you see this side became barium 3, but this time barium is 1. So here put 3. Now check. Barium 3, barium 3. Aluminum 2, aluminum 2. Now non-metal. After metal, next is the non-metal. Chlorine here, 3 to the 6. This side chlorine 6, 3 to the 6. This side chlorine also 6. Now look at the sulfur. Here sulfur how many? 3. Here sulfur how many? 3. Sulfur also balanced. Now oxygen. 3 4 are 12. So these 3 will be multiplied with this 4. 3 4 are 12. Oxygen 12. Here oxygen 3 4 are 12. Now this reaction became balanced. So in this way, this trick always remember. Then easily we can, instead of applying the heat and trial method, this trick we can apply to balance the chemical equations. Now the third one, sodium. Sodium symbol is Na plus water. So sodium reacts with the water. It will form sodium hydroxide. Along with the sodium hydroxide, it will form hydrogen gas. Now check whether the reaction is balanced or not. First metal, sodium 1, sodium 1. Now oxygen, oxygen 1, oxygen 1. Here hydrogen how many? Here hydrogen 2, but here hydrogen how many? 3. So hydrogen is in the unbalanced state. So try to balance the hydrogen. This side 2, this side hydrogen how many? 3. So here you put 2. Okay, now again start from the beginning. Sodium 1, sodium 1. Now you see non-metals are not there. Okay, non-metals other than oxygen, hydrogen, and hydrogen are not there. So oxygen try to balance at the second last. So here oxygen how many? 2. Here oxygen how many? 1. So put 2 here. So I told no, whenever we are putting the numbers, always start from the beginning. So here metals, first check the metals. Sodium 1, here sodium 2. So here you put 2. Now you see sodium 2, sodium 2. Oxygen how many here? Oxygen 2. Now hydrogen count. 2 to the 4. Here 2 hydrogen, 2 hydrogen. That means the reaction now became balanced. So in this way, this trick remember. MnOH, metals, non-metals, oxygen, hydrogens. So by applying this trick, we can balance any type of chemical equations. Okay, now let's see the question number 3. Write a balanced chemical equation with state symbols for the following reactions. Means here in this equation, whatever the compound or the molecule is given, in which state is given, we have to write. Either in solid state, liquid state or aqueous state, we have to write, and then we have to balance the chemical equation. So first what is written? Solutions of barium chloride and sodium sulfate in water. That means this barium chloride is dissolved in water, as well as this sodium chloride also dissolved in water. So barium chloride, BaCl2 in AQ means aqueous medium, dissolved in water. The solution of this barium chloride in water plus sodium sulfate. It is also in aqueous medium. So barium chloride, solution of barium chloride in water plus solution of sodium sulfate in water. They reacted together and they formed what? Insoluble barium sulfate, BaSO4. Sodium sulfate formula will be Na2SO4 because say sodium valency is 1 and sulfate valency is 2. So if we crisscross, the formula of the sodium sulfate will be Na2SO4. Whereas barium sulfate is BaSO4. Why? Barium valency is 2, sulfate valency 2. So we can simplify this one. So the formula will be BaSO4. So that is why sodium sulfate is Na2SO4 whereas barium sulfate is BaSO4. So this solution of the barium chloride and the solution of the sodium sulfate, they reacted and they formed what? Insoluble barium sulfate. Insoluble means what? This one we will get in the solid state, insoluble form, precipitate we will get. Along with this precipitate, what will be formed? Solutions of sodium chloride. Means NaCl we will get in aqueous form. Now we have to balance the chemical equation. Now check. Already a trick I told. First metal, then non-metal, then oxygen, and then hydrogen. So metal, barium is the metal and the sodium is the metal. Here barium how many? 1. Here barium how many? 1. That means barium is balanced. Now sodium. Sodium how many here? 2. Here how many? 1. So here put 2. Now again start from the beginning. Barium 1, barium 1. Sodium 2, sodium 2. Now try to balance the non-metal. That too other than oxygen and hydrogen. So chlorine is the non-metal and the sulfur is the non-metal. Here chlorine how many? 2. So here chlorine how many? 2. So chlorine also balanced. Now check the sulfur. Here sulfur how many? 1. Here sulfur how many? 1. Here oxygen how many? 4. Here oxygen how many? 4. That means this balanced. So in this way, if we apply the trick, easily we can balance the chemical equations. Now let's see the question number 2. Sodium hydroxide solution in water. That means NaOH in aqueous medium. Means NaOH is dissolved in water. AQ means aqueous solution. Reacts with what? Hydrochloric acid in water. That means HCl in water. They reacted and they formed what? Sodium chloride solution. NaCl in aqueous medium plus water. So water we will get in which state? Water we will get in the liquid state. Now balance this chemical equation. Sodium 1, sodium 1. Sodium is the metal. Sodium balanced. Now try to balance the non-metal other than oxygen and hydrogen. Here chlorine 1, here chlorine 1. Chlorine also balanced. Now try to balance the oxygen. Here oxygen 1, here oxygen 1. Now hydrogen. Here hydrogen 1 plus 1, 2. Here hydrogen is 2. That means the reaction is already in the balanced state. So in this way, if we apply this trick, easily we can balance the chemical equation. Okay, now let's see the next question. A solution of a substance X is used for whitewashing. Name the substance X and write its formula. So a substance is there which is used for whitewashing. First we have to name what was the name of the substance X and what is its formula. Then according to the second question, if this X reacts with the water, what will be formed? We have to write the reaction between the substance X and the water. Now the substance which is used for whitewashing, it is called the quick lye or it is also called the calcium oxide. The first question, the substance X is quick lye or it is called calcium oxide. Its formula is CaO. Okay, so the substance X is the quicklime or calcium oxide. Its formula is calcium oxide. Now, according this question number 2, if this calcium oxide reacts with the water, what they will form? So, calcium oxide reacts with the water. Calcium oxide is called quicklime. So, calcium oxide reacts with the water. It will form calcium hydroxide. And calcium hydroxide, it is called slaked lime. And this process is called slaking of lime. Okay, now let's see the next question. Why does the color of copper sulfate solution change when an iron nail is dipped into it? Now, let's take one beaker. And into this beaker, take some copper sulfate solution, CuSO4 solution. And the color of the copper sulfate solution, it is blue in color. Now, into this beaker, if we dip some iron nail or any iron objects, then this iron is more reactive than the copper. In the reactivity series, iron is placed above the copper. So iron being more reactive, it will displace the copper and they will form the ferrous sulfate or the iron sulfate. And because of this formation of the ferrous sulfate or the iron sulfate, the color of the copper sulfate changes from blue to green. So why the color of the copper sulfate solution changes? Because of the displacement reaction. Iron being more reactive easily can displace the copper and can form the ferrous sulfate, and because due to the formation of the ferrous sulfate, the color changes from blue to green. So when an iron nail is dipped into the solution of copper sulfate, comma, the displacement reaction takes place. Iron being more reactive can displace copper and forms ferrous sulfate or iron sulfate. Due to the formation of iron sulfate, the color of copper sulfate solution changes. Due to the formation of iron sulfate, the color of copper sulfate solution changes from blue to green. And the reaction involved here is copper sulfate reacts with iron, they will form iron sulfate plus copper. Copper sulfate is blue in color and the iron sulfate or the ferrous sulfate is green in color. So due to the formation of the ferrous sulfate or the iron sulfate, the color changes from blue to green. Okay, now let's see the next question. Give an example of a double displacement reaction other than the one which is given in activity 1.10. So in the activity 1.10, one of the example of the double displacement reaction given, that is the sodium sulfate when reacts with the barium chloride, they will form the barium sulfate PPT and along with this sodium chloride. So other than that one, we have to write one more example of the double displacement reaction. So what we can write, for example, potassium hydroxide reacts with sodium chloride. Now, according to the definition of the double displacement reaction, we know that the ions of the two reactants, for here ion is OH negative ion, here this one is chlorine negative ion. So this OH will go in place of chlorine and the chlorine will come in place of OH. So they will form what? Potassium chloride plus sodium hydroxide. So when the potassium hydroxide reacts with NaCl, they form potassium chloride plus sodium hydroxide. So this is an example of the double displacement reaction. Here the ions switches their places and they form the two new products. Okay, now let's see the next question. Identify the substances that are oxidized and the substances that are reduced in the following reactions. Now here two reactions are given and this question is based on the oxidation and the reduction reactions. So we have to find out the substances which is getting oxidized and the substances which is getting reduced. So already know the definition of the oxidation and the reduction. The addition of oxygen to a substance is called oxidation and the removal of oxygen from a substance is called reduction. Now easily from this reaction easily we can say, see the sodium got the oxygen. That means the sodium got oxidized and this oxygen got reduced. So oxygen by losing one electron it got reduced. So the sodium is getting oxidized and the oxygen is getting reduced. So in this reaction the copper oxide it lost one electron and it became copper. That means the copper oxide is getting reduced and the hydrogen by getting one oxygen it got oxidized. So in this reaction substance oxidized is what? Sodium. And the substance reduced is what? Oxygen. So here according to this question, substance oxidized is hydrogen and the substance reduced is copper oxide. So the losing of electron is called reduction and the gaining of oxygen is called oxidation. So in this way easily we can find out what are the substances is getting oxidized and what are the substances getting reduced.